Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I have a special guest with me, my daughter. She's watching TV right now, so she's distracted. But basically I wanted to kind of do a short video, like a story time video about her. So yeah, I'm gonna try to do it as short as I can. But I thought it's an interesting story to tell, and I've wanted to, I've wanted to tell it. So basically, what it is about her, and it's about how I didn't know that I was pregnant with her, and um, you probably hear these stories all the time, but everyone's story is different. So I'm gonna give my perspective on it. So let me try to go back a little bit before I, tell the story. So basically, I have a 9-year-old son, and she is 3 months old. So there's like a decent age difference. If it was up to me, I would have my kids closer in age, but that's not how life worked out, which it worked out how it was supposed to. So I'm very blessed. I have two beautiful, healthy children. So for a while, I was trying to get pregnant. It wasn't working. I don't know if I was just not doing, around the right time. But it's frustrating, and you're like, oh, is something wrong with me? Because it's been a long time since I've been pregnant before, over 9 years. So I'm like, is everything, working, well? So also, I do not get my uh, time of the month every month. So that was another thing, um, that I didn't know when the time was that I could try to get pregnant, because I wasn't getting my time of the month every month. Oh, you okay? So basically, I went to my doctor finally, and I was trying to tell him that, I'm trying to get pregnant, and it's been a while since I've been trying, and he was telling me, not to worry, and to try to, I guess, get like ovulation tests and stuff like that. Um, and then I guess I had to do blood work, and then he wanted me to get on the pill, and I'm like, well, why am I getting on the pill? He was saying to regulate my cycle. So I was on it for a few months, and then I started getting my cycle every month, and then I guess I stopped using it, and then I went back to him, and then he recommended doing something else, to make sure, I guess, everything was okay down there. And I never went to go get that done. And I stopped taking the pill. He didn't tell me to stop taking the pill. I just decided to just not take it. I don't know why. If I was just like upset, I just didn't want to take it. I was taking it for a few months. So, I'm back to not getting my cycle again. And, I'm just like frustrated because I stopped taking the pill. And then, um, I guess in like July, I stopped taking it, or maybe the end of June of last year. And then it was around um, December, I wasn't feeling well. I think in November I wasn't feeling well either, but like it was like weird things. So it was like, I think like I kept like yawning a lot, or like burping a lot, or something weird. That was something that was weird for me. And then um or like feeling like I was like gagging or something. I don't know. Like that was, I don't know if that has anything to do with me being pregnant, but that wasn't something that was just happening to me. And then I started having like pain like near my pelvis area. So I thought that was, weird, and I went to my doctor, and I think they asked me if I was pregnant, and I said no, and they didn't do a test or anything. So they wanted me to go get a ultrasound of my pelvis to see, like, what's going on down there. So I went to go get my ultrasound, and I've had ultrasounds done before, not just for my previous pregnancy, but for other stuff in my body. So I am laying there on the table, and it's like in like a dark room, and then it was a girl, she's like in front of me, and I'm laying down, and she has her screen towards her, and she's putting it near my pelvis area, and she's like, I guess, like looking at it, and she like asked me a question. I think she asked me like, when's the last time I got my cycle, and I was like, it's been a few months. I'm like, I don't get it all the time. So then she calls someone else in the room. Like, she goes out, she's looking for someone, she calls them in the room, and she's like pointing at the screen or like looking at something, and I can't see the screen because it's turned towards her, and they're like whispering, and I'm laying there on the table, and I'm just like, I'm thinking like every worst thing, because I worry a lot. If I had a name, it'd be worry a lot. So I'm laying there, and I'm like looking at the ceiling, and I'm like, trying not to show that I'm like panicked, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like they must see something like a huge like cyst or something, because I went in there because I was having I was having pain, like pelvic pain, and it wasn't like really extreme that I can remember, but it was painful enough for me to go make a doctor's appointment. So they're whispering, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they have to see something, because why would she call someone else in? And they're like whispering so I can't hear it, and it's just like, I'm like freaking out. And then, I forgot if the other girl stayed in there or if she like went back out, but then she like took something else and like put it near, like, I guess the bottom of my stomach, and I'm like, doesn't that sound like a heartbeat? Like the thing she was using, like I guess it was the heartbeat monitor thing, I don't know what it's called. And I'm like, is that what I think it is? And I didn't want to ask questions, because I know that like when you get like ultrasounds done and stuff like that, like they're not going to tell you the results. They're not legally allowed to tell you. Like they have to send the results to your doctor, and then they go over it with you. So I was like, I'm not even going to ask her what's going on, because she's not going to tell me anyway. She's going to say like, go talk to your doctor. So she was doing that, and I'm like, that sounds like a freaking heartbeat. Like, what's going on? So then, she like wraps up her like results and stuff, and she's like, I'm sending this to your doctor. And I think I asked her something, and she's like, you have to wait for your doctor to like, go over the results. But she was like, to see if you're pregnant or not. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like freaking out. Like, I'm like freaking out. Oh, sorry, mommy. So, so I'm waiting for my ride because I got dropped off there. And whenever I'm nervous, I have to like go to the bathroom a lot. So I think 2 times while I was waiting for my ride, within like less than 30 minutes, I had to pee. Because when I'm nervous, I have to pee. So, and I'm just like, what's going on? Like, I wasn't really like believing like what she was saying. So I don't say anything to my partner. And I get in the car, and I'm trying to like, I'm like, I think she thinks like I'm pregnant or something. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if I heard right, or like if there was a heartbeat or something. And he like doesn't know what to say either. So we go to Walmart, and we go get 2 tests, pregnancy tests. And we were in there, I think, for something else too. I'm not sure. And I just like didn't like, I did not believe. You want this? I didn't believe it. Like, I really did not believe it at all. So we get 2 tests. We go to the house, because I've taken a lot of, not a lot, but a decent amount of pregnancy tests over the years. And the times where I thought that I could be pregnant, like either I missed a period. This is when I was getting my cycle every month, okay? And usually, like, I wasn't late. Like, I was getting it around the same day every month, or 1 or 2 days off, because it just depends. I was getting it, and then that's when I was like, times where I was a little bit late, I was like, am I pregnant? Or if I felt kind of weird, I'm like, I haven't gotten my, and I'm like, I would take the test and I would be so disappointed, because those are the times I really thought like I was pregnant. So it's just kind of like crazy how it's like when you don't think you are, you actually are. So we go home. He's out there in the living room. I think he was out there doing something out there. So I'm in the bathroom. I open the first test. I do my thing. I'm waiting for the results. And then when I look down, it has 2 lines. And I'm just like, I just like could not believe it. I was like, what? So I call him in and I show him the test, and I'm like about to cry. And I'm like, I'm pregnant. And he's like, you're pregnant. And I'm getting emotional right now. And like, we're both like crying, because we've been together for a while, and we like have been talking about having kids, and like us making a child together, because obviously I have a 9-year-old son, but it's from a previous relationship, and he doesn't have any kids from a previous relationship. So this is his first like experience from like pregnancy and on, because he met my son when my son was 4 years old. So we're just like crying, and he's just like, take another test. And I take the other test, and it shows the same thing, and we're just like, we can't believe it. I still can't believe it. So it was like, I think like 3 or 4 in the afternoon or something like that, and I'm like, I'm gonna call my doctor's office right now, because my doctor's office is literally the next street over. Like, that's how close I am to my doctor's office. And I'm calling, and I'm like, can I just come in? Like, I need to talk to my doctor. So they said I can come in the same, like, right then. I could just come in there. So I'm like waiting, and it's like the longest wait. Even though it was like late in the afternoon, there was like barely anyone in there. It felt like forever. It had to be over 30 minutes of me like sitting there waiting to see the doctor. And 30 minutes when you're really waiting on something seems like hours. It was just like, I'm like sitting there, and I'm like I just still couldn't believe it. Like, I wanted to hear it from someone. Like, I needed to like hear it. It had to be over 30 minutes. So I'm just like waiting there. I'm like nervous, and I'm like, again, I have to pee. And I was about to go to the bathroom, and then that's when the nurse like called me in, or the assistant, she called me in. And then I don't even know if they did any other, like, you know how when you go in they take like your blood pressure and all that. I don't even know if I did that. I don't like remember. All I remember is I went to the room. I'm with my partner. Him and I are in the room, and then she comes in, and she tells me, I told her, I'm like, I just went to go get this ultrasound of my pelvis, and they told me that I might be pregnant. And then she looked at the results, and she definitely told me that I'm pregnant. And I'm just like, what? I just could not believe it. Like, I could not believe it. And that wasn't even the craziest part. She said I was over 5 months pregnant. And I'm like, what? 5 months pregnant? Like, over, like, almost 6 months pregnant. And I had no idea. Like, it just sounds so simple, but it's like to me, that's like crazy. Like, you know, when you hear those stories on like TV, they have like that show, like, I didn't know I was pregnant, and you're like, okay, like, it's very hard to like not know. But I'm one of those stories, not like the whole thing, like they have like a whole thing where they don't know for the whole time, but I didn't know for like more than half of my pregnancy. So I'm just like, what? Because, you know, they can tell about how far along I am. And, oh my goodness. So, that's my story on how I found out. So, then, you know, they're saying, she was telling, you know, me to get a gynecologist and, you know, check on the baby and all that. Because, you know, they didn't show me the ultrasound that they did. And I didn't ask of what the results were of what I, you know, the ultrasound I just did of my pelvis. So then I had to find a doctor, and another crazy experience, which I didn't go through before, because obviously I found out right away when I was pregnant with my son. I had to call, like, I feel like over 20 places, almost, like, I know it was more than 10 probably, and they all would not take me. And you're thinking like, oh, it's probably because of the insurance. No, they literally said to me, because I said, how far along are you? And I said, well, I just found out I'm pregnant. And they said I'm like, I think like 24 weeks or almost 25 weeks. And they're like, oh, they're like, we can't take you here, you're too far along. I'm thinking in my head, like, what? I have never, well, obviously I've never heard that, because I found out before when I was like a few weeks. But I'm thinking in my head, like, what? So I'm calling different places, like all near where I live, and then like a little bit further out. They're all saying the same thing. They're like, oh, I have to ask. So that they like put me on hold, and then they all take my insurance, because usually when it's hard to find a doctor when you ask them about your insurance and they're like, oh, we don't take your insurance. That wasn't even the issue. They were all saying you're too far along. I'm thinking in my head, what does that mean? How can you not take a person because they're too far along? Like, it's like you're denying someone medical care. And it's like, that's crazy. I've never heard of that. So finally, after I'm calling, like, I feel like definitely over 10 places, I'm like, oh. So I call the doctor's office and I tell them, I ask them about the insurance and I tell them, and they say, okay, we can take you. I'm like telling the girl, I'm like, I called so many places and they won't take me because I'm too far along, and they thought that was crazy. And I'm like thinking in my head, yeah, that's crazy. So then I had to wait, I think a little less than a week for that appointment to see that doctor, and it just felt like forever. And I couldn't tell my family. I mean, I could have, but I didn't even like know anything yet. I just knew that I was pregnant, but I didn't see the baby. I didn't know anything because I like had nothing done. I didn't know like what was going on. So I literally had to wait almost a week for my appointment, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like, it just felt so long. If 30 minutes felt long, this felt so long. So basically, I finally got my appointment, and they confirmed it. I'm pregnant, and I did my ultrasound. And right then and there, because I was already like almost 6 months pregnant, and I did my first ultrasound, like, for me to see. And they were like, the lady was like, do you want to find out what you're having? And I'm like, yes. And she said, it's a girl. And I just, like, my heart just so happy, because I have always wanted to have a daughter. And I've always wanted a daughter. And when I found out I was pregnant with my son and they told me it was a boy, I was disappointed. But it was like a quick disappointment. It wasn't like it was just after I was like, oh my god. But for like a little bit, I was like, because I was just like wanting a girl so bad. But obviously that changed. But still, I'm like, I don't feel fulfilled. Like, when I want another child, I want to have a daughter. So when I heard that, I was just so happy. And obviously, everything else worked out. Um, but yeah, I thought that was a crazy experience because when I thought I was pregnant, I wasn't. And then this whole time, almost 6 months, I had no idea because I don't get a regular cycle. So I was obviously missing my, because I'm pregnant, but I thought it's just because my body, I'm not like before, I'm just not, you know. And then I wasn't like throwing up. Like, I think maybe once I felt nauseous or twice, but like I thought like, okay, maybe I ate something bad, or because I'm not eating healthy. And that's another thing too. I was so scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been eating like all these foods, and there's certain food you're not supposed to eat when you're pregnant, and I'm eating super unhealthy. I shouldn't be eating unhealthy anyways, but that's like another whole subject on that. And all these things, but she, everything was good on the scans, and obviously she's great right now. And I just think it's really crazy how like for me, like, because I obviously, like, the first time around, I knew, I felt, sick, and I, right early, I found out. But also too, I was feeling like little like kicks or something near my pelvis, but I wasn't thinking that I'm pregnant. I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I'm having like a twitch, because sometimes when like your arm twitches and stuff, like that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, I'm having like twitches like near like my pelvis, like I'm just like thinking like I'm having some twitches. So that was her, like she was moving and I just didn't know. So I think that's really crazy, and it's a it's a cool experience. Like, you know you want something so badly, and when you like aren't expecting it, it happens. And I'm so blessed. Sorry, mama, I have like her neck all, let me lay her down. um but yeah, like I just didn't know. And obviously now I have this beautiful daughter. So I just thought that was a interesting story to tell. I do want to do another story on my pregnancy from the time I found out until I delivered. So I'm going to do that one next. But stay tuned, and comment down below and subscribe. And I'm definitely going to do that next story for you guys.